You're listening to The Pump Fake. With your host, Jarrett Bailey.
And welcome into the latest edition of the Pump Fake, everybody. If you're watching on YouTube, please be sure to do all that YouTube stuff. Subscribe, turn on notifications, like the video, share it around. If you're listening to it as a podcast, please be sure to leave a review. And yeah, welcome in. We've gone through the meat and potatoes of the free agency portion. There's still guys left and whatnot. We'll dive into that as the offseason goes on. But today, joined by my friend, my only friend who has a Grammy over at Yahoo Sports, Jason Fitz. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
I'm doing good. How are you doing? Like it's funny. We're already this far into the off season, and it doesn't feel like we've hit the off season at all yet. Like the way that free agency and the draft then times out, it feels like we don't take a collective sigh of relief until May. And it's wild to me.
And even then, like during May, like I'm at OTAs and stuff. So like I'm still like in the swing of it and whatnot. And it's constant. I feel like as I get older, the off season feels like it's shorter and shorter every year.
Yeah, 100%. And the funny thing is, you'll listen to people that cover the NBA and college basketball tell you how long those seasons are, and they are because of the number of games. Baseball guys the same way. But sure. I'd argue that like we've turned the soap opera of the NFL into such an important storyline. If you watch, Get Up in the morning, they're still talking about Aaron Rodgers over talking about NCAA basketball. So like it just shows you that there's never, if you're Shefty or Graz or any of the people at ESPN that cover the NFL, you just never you never really get a break.
Yeah, for sure. I want to talk about your Raiders real quick. How you feeling right now? New head coach and Pete Carroll, the Geno Smith trade, signing Max Crosby to an extension where now he has more money than God. Like, what's the thought process in Raiders fans right now?
I think Raiders fans as a whole are maybe stuck. I personally feel really good about this, but it's funny how many times I keep seeing Raiders fans come in and say, well, this guy's not going to win a Super Bowl and this guy's not going to win a Super Bowl for us and all these things. And it's like, y'all, I think we've lost the concept of what the goal is right now. Like this is, people say it's a loser's mentality, but I just think that there's stages to what you have to accomplish as a franchise. So when you've become inept, you have to just become competent first. So, Pete Carroll is obviously not a kid coaching. And a lot of people are like, oh, he's barely going to make it 3 years. I remind everybody that not including interim coaches, just full-time coaches, the Raiders have hired 15 full-time coaches in the last 31 years. So every 2 years, you're hiring a new coach. So if Pete Carroll only makes it 3 years, it's above the average. So I think what's happened is you reward Max because it makes sense. You bring in Geno Smith because I don't think any of the quarterbacks in this year's draft were going to be worth it anyway. I don't think there's an answer there for any franchise, and there wasn't a better answer in free agency. You're not going to roll it back with Aiden O'Connell. So I think you made the best of a bad situation, and you hired a coach that's going to bring in competent adults into the room that are going to make sure that the franchise is being run competently. So if your argument is like, oh, the best they're going to hit is 9-8. Okay. Well, if you get to the spot where you're consistently 9-8, now you're doing things in a way that you can build off that and try and get to the point that you're consistently an upper tier playoff team. Like there's levels to this, and everybody wants, we live in an Ozempic society. Everybody wants the Texans or the Commanders, like where I can take a pill and suddenly I'm skinny. And it's like long-term, like the funny thing, and I say this to everybody, it's like, if you start taking Ozempic, you're going to take Ozempic for the rest of your life. Okay. So at some point, if you really want to just be a better like version of yourself, you got to do all the things that suck. You got to eat right and go to the gym, and you got to do it day in and day out for a long time. I think that's what 98% of organizations in sports have to do. So like, it's not Pete Carroll's fault that the Raiders have sucked for 2 generations. You just you got to power through it at some point.
And what a segue. This episode is brought to you by Oza. I'm kidding.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, and I think you made the perfect point bringing up the Commanders and the Texans, where now fans are just going to be stuck in this mindset. Well, the Texans did it in 1 year. The Commanders did it right away. Why can't we? I think that they're very much the exception, not the rule, where, you can turn things around right away and, expect to now be having deep playoff runs every year for, it's not going to be that for every team. And with the Raiders, it felt like they were getting some much needed, proven success in the room with Pete Carroll now leading this thing. I think very similar to what the Chargers did last year, where it's like, all right, we know that Jim Harbaugh can win. So let's bring him in and have a proven like CEO head coach run this thing. And lo and behold, they get back to the playoffs in his first year there. So yeah, I think that at minimum, they'll be much more exciting than they have been in recent years where, Gardner Minshew is the week 1 starting quarterback. I think for at least Raiders fans, they can at least say, well, all right, we at least have something that we can potentially look forward to and being in a playoff on it at minimum.
I think we also need to reimagine the way we use suck in general. Like, and I mean like Geno, right? Because there is this narrative that has been pushed out there to a million different people, like Geno Smith sucks. That's what everybody says. Not everybody, but that's what a lot of people say.
Sure.
I had, one of the smartest people I know in the entire business that has watched more Geno than anybody. And I was texting that person about, the Raiders fans' negative reaction. And the response I got was, if they don't like this, they're idiots. And like, that's from a person that doesn't typically say that. And I think it's because we decide suddenly arbitrarily where the line in the sand is for good or sucks. Like, you know what sucks? Gardner Minshew is your week 1 starting quarterback. Like, there are genuine, like, I have no idea what the Giants are actually going to do at quarterback this year. And I'm not sure that either of the top 2 quarterbacks won't be off the board by the time they pick. Like, that sucks. If you're looking at, looking at possibly having DeVito, I feel as good having Danny DeVito start as my starting quarterback, right? So, like, that sucks.
With his Jersey Mike sub just running out there,
throwing the subs around. For, day of giving. I think there's this element where we have to accept that the middle class of quarterback is not suck. It's just the middle class quarterback. Like, it's okay to say, hey, our quarterback's in the middle class. He's going to win us some games. He's going to lose us some games. And we're just going to have to tread water until we figure out what we're doing. Like, that's not sucks. That's middle class. That's not poor. That's like still eating. And so I think we need to recalibrate some of that.
So many fans, like, and I don't know why it's this way. But yeah, no, it's either you're the greatest thing anyone's ever seen or you're awful. When really there's this large middle class of quarterbacks. Geno's in that category. Purdy's in that category. Tua's probably in that category where you're like, yeah, I mean, they're not Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, but like, they're not, Bubby Brister. They're not like just, who's another random quarterback we can pull? Charlie
Marquez
Whitehurst.
Tuiasosopo. I'm gonna give you Tuiasosopo.
That's a good one. There you go. I can never say his name, so I'm glad that you could.
That's what Madden. I give Madden all the credit for that. I think that's also part of what you have to calibrate when you're in the AFC West too.
Like, for sure.
I hear people all the time say, well, we need a coach that can beat Andy Reid. We need a quarterback that can beat Patrick Mahomes. It's like, okay, so what you need is arguably the best quarterback of all time with arguably the best coach of all time at the same time on the same team with the GM that builds a great roster, doesn't miss on draft picks, and coordinators that are wildly respected in the league and somehow manage to just stay every year. That's all you're asking for. Like, when you put it out that way, you just, I go back to, if you get in the dance, you got a chance. Former players say that to me all the time. Like, what you really need is a team that's in the playoffs. And if it gets in the playoffs, then you've got a fighter's chance that maybe you catch somebody on that day and it can be your way to beat them. And
also, like, 9 and 8 seasons aren't created equally for every team around the NFL. Like, I'm a Steelers fan, and if like somebody tells me to be grateful for 9 and 8 again, I'm gonna punch them in the face. But like, for the Raiders, I'm not trying to be like sound like a condescending ass right now, but like for the Raiders, like, that would be a very good season right now, considering the past few years since moving on from Derek Carr. They haven't been to the playoffs in a few years. Getting to 9 and 8 at this point would be a big thumbs up rather than just being, oh no, here we go again, like it would be for some other teams.
9 and 8 is the financial equivalent of always thinking somebody's richer and not realizing that you're richer than somebody else.
Sure.
Like, that's like 9 and 8 doesn't feel great. It doesn't. I get it. And I remember the year that the Raiders lost the Super Bowl, and they had leading up to that, they'd lost an AFC championship game that was or an AFC playoff game that was a heartbreaker to Baltimore. They'd lost the Tuck Rule game. Like, I'd gone through all these devastating losses. And I remember looking at one of my buddies and saying, man, I'd rather not even make the playoffs than feel this. And then I watched my favorite team lose double-digit games for double-digit years consecutively. And when you live through years of 3 and 14 now, 4 and 13, when you live through that over and over and over again, you crave 9 and 8. But then when you get to 9 and 8, like, which is what so many, bad teams are craving, you get to 9 and 8, and then you're like, man, Like, when are we going to like truly leap into the upper echelon? And then you get into the upper echelon and it's like, yeah, but this isn't good enough. We're not winning Super Bowls. Like this is where we are as a fan base. Like, imagine what it must have felt like to be a Buffalo Bills fan that watched your team lose 4 straight Super Bowls,
Ugh.
and how often you would sit there and say, well, we suck. We can't get this done. This sucks. And now you look back at it as a Bills fans, you got to be sitting here. I wish I knew what it felt like to go back to the Super Bowl. Like, but then once you get to the Super Bowl, it's like, oh, the sky is falling. We lost the thing. So,
Yeah.
like, I just think we lose perspective on where we are all the time.
Yeah, 100%. But I'm happy for you and Raiders fans who seem to have something that, for the first time in a little bit, have a season that they can go into, say, yeah, we have a real chance of being, a wild card team here, and potentially, finally taking that leap forward. So that AFC West is loaded, by the way. I mean, goodness, not just obviously the Raiders, but Bo Nix and the Broncos had a nice year. Obviously the Chiefs, and then we'll see what the Chargers do in year 2 with Harbaugh and Herbert. All right, so today the biggest thing that Fitzy and I are going to be doing, we're going to be talking about potential rule changes. Where are you on tush push? Are you team ban it or team keep it? I'm probably in the more unpopular boat, but I'm team ban it. I think it's stupid. I don't think it's a football play. I think it's dumb. Get rid of it.
I think I'm team keep it. I'm team keep it. I'm planting a flag on team keep it. In fact, I think every team that's asking to ban it should keep that same energy and bring it to practice and figure out how to run it. Like, we watched the Bills incapable of getting their own version of the tush push as part of the reason they just lost in the playoffs. Like, it becomes a useless play when everybody can do it. Part of the reason they changed extra points is because the conversion rate on extra points was just getting so ridiculous that it was a waste of a play. I don't think you can ban the tush push when there's only one team that manages to do it that way. Like, if I cannot believe in a copycat league where we sit here and talk about coaches studying everything that everybody else does. Nobody else has figured out who to put behind center and how to match that. Like, you need a guy that can squat and get his body low with an offensive line that can get some leverage, and you push everybody forward. Like, I don't know why the Bills can't do it. I don't know why the Packers can't do it. I don't know why the Lions can't. I don't know why the Raiders can't do it. But right now, it's only a cheat code for one team, and you don't ban something because it's a cheat code for one team. That, to me, is the equivalent of saying, well, I don't know, man. We can't really stop Justin Jefferson on this go route, so we're just going to make go routes illegal. Like, no, figure out how to stop it at some point.
Well, we're just going to have to agree to disagree there. I think the line in the sand for me was the NFC Championship game where, like, you had Frankie Louvu just diving over the line for like 8 consecutive plays. It's like, dude, we can't do anything else, so I got to try to time this. And then you had Russ be like, look, dude, if you do it again, we're just going to give him a touchdown. And be like, all right, sure, why not?
I think what we do is, instead of banning it, we just give Philly the automatic first down. If it's within a yard.
Oh, it's like an automatic walk where, like, you just put out the hand. It's like, yeah, just send him to first.
Send him. Like, we're going to give him the yard. Let's just move on. Like that. Now we're talking. Like, that's just admit defeat on it. I
think that's kind of a fun. All right, that's a good rule change proposal for you. So if the Eagles line up in the tush push and it's 3rd and a yard or 4th and a yard, we can just have the opposing head coach just kind of flash an X or whatever. And he's like, just fucking give it to him.
I love this idea in general, just conceding. Imagine, because, like, we're all watching the end of NCAA basketball games where it's, all basketball games, foul, free throw, foul, free throw. Imagine if you could get to the point where, as a team, you just conceded a play. Like, you just came up and said, no, we're going to give him the touchdown on this. We want the ball back. Like that now we're getting wild at this point. We're just, you're down or even if you're up by 1 and you got Mahomes, you're like, you know what? We'll concede the touchdown. We want to get the ball back. It's like, oh, okay. Like, I'm in for this.
Should there be like a time? There's got to be like some sort of time limit in place, right? Like, in terms of it has to be below X amount of time left in the game to do that. Or can we just do it? It's like 10 minutes left in the first, now just give it to them.
I think inside 2 minutes. Inside 2 minutes.
I would agree.
Yeah, like now, and the 2-minute warning on either half, you can simply concede a play or a drive.
Okay. That's just an entire, whatever, give it to him. I don't care. That's funny. Now, can the other team, like, veto it, or is it something that they have to, like, how can they say no? Instead, we'll just maybe get rid of like a timeout or 2 timeouts?
No, I think so if you concede the play, then you only get 1 yard. That's all you get. You get 1 yard, but you get the first down because it has to be on 1 yard or less. 3rd or 4th and 1 yard or less. 3rd and 4th down, you can concede for the 1 yard. If you concede the drive, then maybe they have, like, you give them the ball at the like a free throw. I'm going to give them the ball at the 5-yard line. they got to score in the next play. Like I love that.
Oh, dude, that's actually very good. I like that a lot.
Or put it on the kicker. Like we'll make it a true free throw. We're conceding the drive. The kicker has to make the extra point. And if the kicker misses the extra point, then you don't get any points. But if the kicker makes the extra point, you get a touchdown. You get 7.
That's good. I like that a lot, actually.
Health and safety too. I'm saving snaps for the players.
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad you brought up health and safety because I'm going to totally abolish it real quick. And this whole notion So the NFL pretends that it talks out of both sides of its mouth. Oh, health and safety is important. Meanwhile, we're trying to make it, a 20-game season. So my first official rule proposal, just bring back the kickoffs the way they were for like 90 years before they moved it to the 35. Just move it back to the 30, have the whole running start and everything. The new dynamic kickoff, it changed practically nothing. I think there was like a slight increase in terms of returns, but still touchbacks are a big problem. Now they're talking about moving touchbacks to like the 35 or something egregious. Just bring back normal kickoffs. Like college still does it. You can't. Football's a contact sport. I understand like you want to be as safe as possible, but at the same time, like it's football. We got to go back to the way that they were for 90 years. And I think that if you want the kickoff to be important, just go back to how it was when returns were at an all-time high because you didn't move the ball forward. You didn't do this dynamic kickoff thing. Just make kickoffs normal again. Put that on a hat. Make kickoffs normal again. I'll wear it.
Yes. Just don't make it red with white lettering on it.
No. We can't. We gotta find a different color.
Yeah, we'll find different colors.
Okay.
If we're gonna change the kickoff rule, I think they took the wrong kickoff rule from the XFL. Like I covered the XFL for ESPN,
right?
And I thought that the best part of the XFL kickoff rules was instead of an onside kick, you're giving them a 4th and 15. One play you convert it like that. I'm in for that all day. Let my best players have a chance to actually impact like an onside kick.
Not the 6th string receiver who I'm going to trust to catch a ball.
Yeah, and everybody's going to get murdered right at the line as they're trying to hit this thing. Like there's no player health and safety in that. Give 4th and 15, put Mahomes on the field and let him try and convert it. Like I wish they would do that.
I 100% agree with that, especially because like I think I kind of understand, the whole onside kick thing because like if you're a team and you build a double-digit lead in the 4th quarter, the whole thing is like, all right, it makes it a little bit too easy for you to lose it. On the flip side, though, don't choke it away. Stop the other team. So I think I'm very much with you in terms of like at least make it a little bit more plausible that a team can come back from a double-digit deficit, sub 3 minutes remaining. Put the ball in the hands of the best players and let them go at it.
I also, if I was a coach, I would have my special teams coordinator with my kicker, and we'd come into the office because like every other player is studying a ton of film. They're doing a ton of breakdowns, and their practices are hard. All of these things. Kickers, as we all know, just sort of stand on the sideline having some fun. They kick for a few minutes and they're done. No. I'm running it different. I'm making you spend 8 hours Monday through. I'm getting 40 hours out of you. Monday through Friday, you're spending 8 hours only working on onside kicks. That's all you're doing. You are literally just working on. Like I don't understand how there is not a higher conversion rate when kickers have the time to figure it out. Like you don't have to cleverly kick it. There has to be a way to consistently. You want to tell me that a kicker that's in the NFL couldn't, if they spent 40 or 50 hours a week for a year, figure out how to always hit the right, like with their golf clubs, they can always seem to hit the ball to the same spot. Make sure that kick consistently goes to the exact same spot. And then you know exactly where you're going in every single one.
I like that a lot. And, somebody who, like I said, being a Steelers fan and being at the facility during the offseason and whatnot. Yeah, I can confirm Chris Boswell's just booting 50-yarders for a little bit. He's like, all right, I'll call it a day here. Yeah, this is good.
Yeah. And like, all right, the onside kick's not wearing his leg out, so he can do it for 8 hours. Let's go. Like, earn your money. Earn your money. Just spend it. While we're changing kickoff rules too, since we're just changing rules here willy-nilly, and I love this. I want to change overtime, but I've figured it out because I hate, and there's a rule proposal now that would force each team to get the ball in the regular season the way they do in playoffs. I think what people are just too, I can't even say this nice, too stupid to sit down and think about is if you guarantee that both teams get the ball, and then you go to sudden death, you are simply delaying the inevitable. Like in the playoffs, if we have the greatest single playoff game we've ever seen in our lives between Mahomes and Allen, and then on the first play of overtime, Patrick Mahomes throws an 80-yard touchdown bomb, and we're like, oh my God. And then on the second play of overtime, Josh Allen throws a 77-yard touchdown bomb. We're like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. Mahomes gets the ball back, does the same thing, and the game's over. Like, people at that point are going to say, how did you not give Josh Allen the chance to react?
Yes.
Like, so this is why it's a failed. I think when you make laws and rules, you should sit down and say, what's the absolute worst case scenario and how do I prevent that? And they didn't do that because eventually this is going to rear its ugly head. But the solution, I've always heard people say, why not add just a full 15-minute quarter, which I would support if we just did a full quarter at the end of the quarter is what it is. The score is what it is. But Charles Robinson over at Yahoo told me that still could be inequitable because somebody would hold the ball for so long that they don't have a chance. I have figured this out. Okay. So you're going to give each team the ball. They're each going to get it, but whoever wins the coin toss gets it first, right? They're going to get the ball at the 35-yard line. There's no kickoff in overtime. Okay. They get the ball at the 35, their own 35-yard line, not college overtime. Now we're going to start a running clock and they get the ball until they score. If they don't score, then the next team's going to get it. But if they do score, however much time it took them to score, then the other team gets that much time on the clock to match.
Oh, that's good. I like that a lot, actually. So, that's very good.
If Mahomes goes down the field in 13 seconds, well, your defense just screwed your offense, so they got to go down the field in 13 seconds. If
I
it
think
takes
that's
an
very
8.5 minute drive, well, then now I got 8.5 minutes, and I got to match you point for point or beat you. But my clock starts. It's like the basketball thing where the NBA thing for the All-Star game when they did the funny clock at the end, whatever the math name for that is. But I'm doing the same thing here. Like, so the minute you get the ball at 35, well, they had 8.5. So now my clock starts at 8.5. And when it hits 0, game's over.
And it would get rid of, I assume it would get rid of ties at that point too, because like you got to either you score or you don't. And that's the end of the game. So I think
if you score and you equal it, like if you score faster, you win. Whatever that is, if you score faster, you win. If you score with 0-0-0 on the clock, then we run it back and we do it again. Like if it's a true tie, we run it back and do it again. If in the playoffs, we can make it a tie in the regular season. But this is a very equitable. Like I'm trying to lobby to get 5 minutes with Raj to just explain. Hey, he doesn't know that I call him Raj, but explain. Hey, Raj, I got this plan. I fixed overtime.
I think that's of all the things we're going to talk about today, that's the best. I don't think I'm going to be able to top it. Now, in terms of the regular season, if there is a tie situation, I do have a fun idea. I say no more ties in the NFL. And, back to kickers here. Let's do a NHL style shootout, but with field goals. So we'll start at like the 20-yard line. You start with a 37-yard field goal. Both teams exchange. If they both make them, you move it back 5 yards. You keep doing until one of them misses. And then that's how you determine the winner of the game after overtime. So if, you go the 10-minute period, nobody scores, it's still tied. We go to a kickoff or a field goal off. And then keep moving back 5 yards until one misses. That's how you determine who wins after overtime. No more ties in the NFL. And it really puts the emphasis on the importance of special teams, which will make, special teams coordinators and kickers feel more important, which I think it makes perfect sense. No more ties. I think ties are dumb. I think the field goal off, the hockey style shootout after overtime, I'm in.
Look, I love this, and NFL purists are going to be like, well, that's not football. Okay. Now,
sure.
For a second, NFL purists, I would tell you just all sit to the side for a second. I love hockey. I covered the Preds on their Stanley Cup final run. I'm a big Preds and Golden Knights fan because of Vegas, obviously,
right.
Nashville, 2 cities. I love hockey. I grew up loving hockey. The shootout is the most electric thing in the world. Now, I don't care.
For sure.
And even if you don't like hockey, when you get to a shootout, the whole bar is focused on it. Like, I'm not a big soccer guy, but when we get to kicks at the end, the world stops. Can you imagine what it would feel like? You're at your Buffalo Wild Wings, and all of a sudden the game goes to overtime, it's tied, and now we're going to penalty kicks to get this thing done? Oh, that would be electric. I mean, the roar of the stadium after a miss or a make. Oh, I'm in for this. Like, I think it's a beautiful idea.
Or if you really want to take it a step further, if you just want to have it be like a penalty kick type situation where there's no like defenders or anything and just see who can bomb one the longest. We got kickers in this league who during warm-ups without any sort of pressure in their face or anything like that are kicking 70-yarders. All right, Brendan Aubrey, go out and do it in a game with the most important time of the game. You make a 70-yarder, see if a guy can top it, and if he can't, then you'll win. Like that. Having a kicker at that point would be like the ultimate weapon, which again, you're right. The purists would very much push back on, and I get that to an extent. But at the same time, the NFL's, it's like the Constitution. It's an ever evolving, alive document that we, consistently make adjustments to. And I think that this would be a fun one.
Yeah. And by the way, purists would look at the way that half the game is called now. And like a rollover from the 90s, right? Like from the 80s
Right.
to the
Yeah.
70s. Like I think that's one thing that I love about football that I hate about the NBA is, everybody in the NBA is this guy couldn't play in this era and this guy couldn't play in that era. That's the stupidest argument in the world to me. Like it presumes that Michael Jordan would not be smart enough in the modern NBA to be like, what do I have to do to take care of my body in this era? It presumes that LeBron wouldn't have looked in the 90s and been like, okay, this is the way the game's being played. How do I make myself like the man spends how many millions of dollars a year on his cryo chamber? Like, I think he would figure it out. I love the fact that football has mostly avoided that conversation. So I say with the utmost of politeness, kind of like screw the diehards. Like these sort of changes, the diehards are always going to be there. But if you don't continue evolving hockey, you don't continue evolving Major League Baseball, you don't continue evolving NBA, eventually, people start to fall out of love with the product. So you got to find the right way to evolve and still, tip the cap. So the rest of the game tips the cap. But I love the idea. I think we can combine our two ideas. Like, okay, so you get the overtime clock, and if it's tied, then you go to penalty.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I think that makes overtime better tenfold. Automatically, it makes it more exciting and more fun.
Can you get us the meeting with Raj, or like?
I don't know. I'll see if I can get in contact with people who can.
I feel like if we
I feel like we've both got friends who probably could.
Yeah, and I think those friends are also smart enough to know not to let us do that. Like, there's a reason that they now make it an invite-only press conference at the Super Bowl for Roger Goodell. Like, and you have to submit questions for some people and all these things. Like, they're guarding Raj. So, like, I have this image where I'm just kind of come up, give him like a slap on the ass, say good game, and then be like, let's go. I got this proposal for you. And we'll just see how it goes. It'll be the last time I get to interact with Roger Goodell up close, but gotta be spectacular.
Oh, it would be incredible. Yeah, no, I love that altogether. The next one I have, I think pass interference. Make it reviewable again, but also don't make it. I get a little bit annoyed with the underthrown balls and then the receiver jumping into the. It's kind of like when you pump fake a three and then you jump into the defender to draw a foul. I think that's kind of BS on the end of the offense, and it makes life's hard enough for defenders already, especially defensive backs. So if it's an underthrown ball, we're not going to call pass interference on that. But also, I think bring it back, make it reviewable, because there's too many PI calls that everybody and their mother can say, all right, yeah, that shouldn't have been called.
Yeah, I'm all in for that. I have no problem. I'm the one guy. This is not going to be popular.
That's okay.
I have no problem letting officials use their discretion. I think officials are actually a lot better than they get credit for being. And the number of things they get right in the game, like we now have this society where everything is watched a million times from a million different angles. I have no problem with, Dean Blandino being like mic'd up with an eye in the sky, looking at it, and you go to Dean and just we can hear him say why he's doing what he's doing and say, no, that's not pass interference. Okay. Cool. Like and to your point, the concept of uncatchable has always counted. Like if you sail a ball 15 yards over somebody's head, it's uncatchable. But if you sail it 15 yards short and the receiver suddenly turns around and jumps, it's not uncatchable. Like I think that we've put such a disadvantage at this that it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, 100%. And by the way, I mean, if you keep talking this nicely about the NFL, we might get that meeting with Raj. So just keep doing that, and we'll send it around. And I think that it's a passing league, and I understand that. And that's, I think, largely helped the game get even, grow even more than it has over the last decade or so. But even so, like making the hip drop tackle thing, I think like things like that are just, little itty bitty things that make it even harder for defenders, even though, did we see any hip drop tackle penalties? I don't recall seeing one.
I think I might've seen one or two and people freaked out about it, but like, who cares? Like to me, all of this, again, like tough love. I'm pulling the chair across the fan and I'm giving them tough love. Okay. You are going to win a couple of games a year where you got stupid penalties for you. You got, a dumb roughing the passer that shouldn't have been called. You're going to get that a couple of times. And then you're going to get a dumb roughing the passer that shouldn't have been called that hurt you a couple of times.
And then you're going to freak the hell out. You're going to be like, oh my God, change the rule.
The whole thing's broken. It's like, well, it wasn't broken in week 3 when you got an automatic first down. You definitely shouldn't have gotten. Like, it's just the way. Like, there's certain things that I think even out in the scales of Lady Justice at the end, and I think most of these penalties are that. Like, I'm with you. I would love to fix the underthrown pass interference. I also think through the course of the year, pass interference, hip drop tackles, holding, all these things, they even themselves out. Everybody at the end of the year is like, if they hadn't called this, we would have won that game, and then we blew this thing here, and that's why we lost that. They do that, and they're like, I just found 3 more wins. Okay, now go through all of your wins that you had, and tell me how many of those times it's like, well, if we hadn't gotten lucky with that, we wouldn't have won that game. Like, that stuff works itself out at the end of the year. We just only remember where we were screwed instead of where we did the screwing.
I like that. Let's talk about another rule proposal that was put in place, like, through actual proposals and whatnot. The playoff rule where people, I think it was the Lions who proposed that wild card teams can host playoff games over a division opponent if they had a better record. I think that's fine personally. I understand people are like, oh no, win your division. It's a little bit different when you play in the NFC North this past year, and the Vikings had 1 billion wins, and then they got to go to, where the hell did they go for their play? They went to Los Angeles. Well, that's a bad example, but even so, like the NFC South, who has a division winner every year who wins 9 games, hosting a playoff game over a Vikings team this past year who won 14. I can agree with the fact, okay, they're more deserving. Yes, the Buccaneers won their division. They're still getting an automatic playoff berth, but I'm all for, like, hey, whoever has the most wins is going to host a playoff game.
Yeah, look, I am too. I think it's not an accident, too, that the Lions propose this. Look at the way the North is going to look for the next several years.
Yeah.
I mean, the Lions will look around saying, that could be us next year, and we don't want to have to do it. I also think as we expand, because you mentioned 20 games earlier, like I think we're going to get to 20 games at some point. Like, we're going to get to 18 soon. And when we get to 18, they're going to rip up the collective bargaining agreement because new TV money's coming in, and they're going to do a new deal. Like Charles, again, I'll go back to Charles Robinson on Inside Coverage for Yahoo Sports with me a couple of weeks ago, said that there are people around the league that believe the salary cap in 5 years is going to be in the range of $500 million because the extra TV money that will come from adding one game. So I think the inevitability in 10 years is we're to 20 games. And I know that sounds shocking right now, but I honestly think money buys health and safety. Nobody really cares when they can make the cash. So once we get to 20 games, this proposal is even more important because right now I hear the argument, 17 games, you have to play within your division, 6 of those, that can make a big difference. When you start to getting to 20 games, now all of a sudden there's going to be a lot of commonality in scheduling. Even if you're in a weak division, your conference is going to have a ton of that. So I think as they expand games, making sure that those games they're adding state in conference will make it much easier to figure out like where these teams should stack up, and you'll have a better example. So yeah, I'm all in for the seeding to change.
So I'm going to say this about the 20 games. I think that's a horrible plan. I think it's going to happen. But I think 17, even 17, I was like, all right, it feels like we've gotten used to 17 though. So I'm like, all right, 17's fine. 18 still feels like too much. I thought 16 was perfect. I'm like, all right, 10-6, 11-5, those are records that I can stick in my head. It took me like a year and a half to get used to 12-5, 13-4. I don't want to, I think part of it's just change where I'm just like, I don't want to, I'm afraid of change. So maybe that's part of it. But, where was I going with that? I think I just went on a little bit of a rant about the
20 games is gross, is where we
20 games is gross. It'll come back to me.
I'll give you another while you're thinking.
Yeah, go ahead.
The other part of my 20 game proposal, or 18, I don't care. When we go to 18, stop with bye weeks. Give me 9, give me a bye week in the middle of the year, and give me 9 more. That's the fair and equitable way to do it. Midway through the season.
I like that. Yeah, it's a good point.
Like 9 weeks in, everybody gets a week off. Let college football stack that week. Like if you really time it right, can you make rivalry week turn into that bye week? Let college football take over Saturday and Sunday. Give the entire league a 1 week rest, and then give 9 more games on the backside. Like that way you don't have somebody that got to bye in week 3 and somebody that got to bye in week 17 trying to compete against each other.
I hadn't thought about that. That's a great idea. I think that is perfect. Actually, that's very good.
I mean, Raj, hit us up. We got a better chance of meeting Roger from American Dad than we do the actual Roger.
For
Goodell.
sure.
But I like this.
We could meet Roger from American Dad dressed up as Roger Goodell.
That probably wouldn't know the difference. I mean, the whole premise of the show.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Gray alien that we should all know is not a character, but okay.
My idea did come back to my head. So if it does get to 20 games, is there going to be a limit on how many games, like a quarterback can only play like 17 games and then you got to play your backup the other 3? I feel like that was something that was talked about in like other expansions. No,
not because how pissed off are you going to be if you're NBC and you got the night that LeBron isn't playing?
Yeah,
Like, you don't
that's
want a
fair.
load management night. Like, that's just never
Yeah.
going to happen. So, in my mind, like, TV deals are too. This is, I don't think too inside baseball here, but part of the reason that Aikman and Buck went to ESPN was because, at least from everything I heard, the NFL made it very clear that they didn't like the Monday Night Football crew and they wanted Aikman and Buck.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, $20 million to each of them or whatever it is to come over to ESPN makes a ton of sense because you're keeping the NFL happy. These broadcast deals with the NFL are everything. And as we start to get into more streaming and everybody trying to piece these things apart, and let's see where Sunday Ticket is in a few years. Like, I don't think the NFL is going to do anything that takes the chance that one of their multi-billion-dollar TV packages gets stuck with, watching the Raiders play with some quarterback you've never heard of instead of their actual starter. That just feels dreadful.
No, that's a great point. I do think that at some point during TV deal negotiations, we're going to get to a point in like 10 years where it's going to be like, all right, welcome to Fox or welcome to NFL Sunday on TikTok, brought to you by Ford. And it's like, oh my God, we're going to have games on streaming live on TikTok. Maybe, Twitter Elon will buy a deal where you can only watch the AFC on Twitter. I think that would be something in the works there.
Nothing would surprise me. It's the NFL's a loss leader for everybody. Like, as they've chronicled a million times, when when NBC lost the NFL, in the 90s to Fox, that was catastrophic for them. Like, the NFL is a 3-hour window where you just advertise your new sitcom that's nobody's really that interested over and over and over again. So yeah, of course, if you're and particularly for the streaming services, part of the brilliance is you can't flip away. Like, if you're on YouTube TV, you can just be like, all right, I'm changing the channel. I'm bored with this. If you're on Netflix, you're on Netflix. Like, you can't close the app, go over here, come back. Like, that's a pain in the ass. So they've got a truly captive audience. Yeah, I think you're right. We're going to end up when I was touring in music too. It really stunned me. The NFL Sunday Ticket everywhere but America. This is true. Lets you buy just your favorite team for the season or just a week if you want. So like when we were touring, I like and look, this was 2012 was the first time I was over there touring. And I logged in and I was like, want to watch the Raiders game? And it was great. Do you want to buy this week for like $20? Do you want to buy the whole season for $200? Or do you want to buy just the Raiders for the whole season? Wow. Do you want to buy the entire NFL this week? They truly a la carte the package everywhere but America. Every other country but America has already been doing that. So now, yeah, I mean, I'll be stunned if at some point, now that it's gone to YouTube TV, I'll be stunned if at some point they're not a la carting it to like, buy your package through this streaming service and pay for just your team. And, people will do that.
Speaking of like advertising your sitcoms, I laughed very hard during the tournament this past weekend. Brad Nessler is like, it's, a little break. The ball went out of bounds. And Brad Nessler's like, all new season of Naked and Afraid. It's like, why are we having broadcast legend Brad Nessler talking about Naked and Afraid? That's hysterical. But definitely part of like, I shouldn't say favorite, but like it always does pop me a little bit when something like that happens. Very silly.
Yeah, especially for a show that he's never watched, like ever, ever. Like you could put all new season of Jarrett and Fitz, and he'd be like, "Sure, I'm reading that." There we go. No idea. What are we doing?
Or just whenever, I don't know, when Dick Enberg would still be in the booth, and you'd be like, "All right, check out a new episode of Two Broke Girls." And I'm sure Dick Enberg watches Two Broke Girls on a weekly basis, doesn't he?
It's his favorite. It can't miss. And it's never a cool show. It's never like coming up Succession. No, it's never that. Like it's always some random sitcom that is like got some bunch of middle-aged white people and a cop that is past his prime. Like I got all of this figured out. Like we can network program.
It's always like one at least notable actor from a show that used to be like that was really good back in the day. It's like starring David Schwimmer. Like I liked Friends, and then it's like a bunch of people you've never heard of on a show that's going to get shit canned after 2 seasons.
Yeah, and then like. Or it's inevitably a spinoff of a spinoff of a spinoff. Like I'm waiting for it's like coming up CSI Cleveland. And it's like, oh, okay. A lot goes on there.
There's like 9 different NCISs right now, by the way.
I can't handle it. I didn't ever watch the first one. And I'm like, now I'm confused. I don't know which one I'm supposed to watch.
The original one is still somehow being made. That show's been around since I was in like kindergarten. And we're still having new seasons of NCIS. I'm blown away by that, by the way.
I just want to know what families are sitting down and be like, ooh, NCIS is on.
I don't know. I feel like shows like that are for more like older people who still only watch network TV and just never converted to Netflix, and they're still the sole reason why CBS is still being able to make shows outside of Paramount Plus, which even then Paramount Plus, not a bad app, by the way. I was scrolling through it the other day. They had, some Beavis and Butthead on there. I was like, oh man, this show makes me laugh. Yeah, I'll turn on. I'll get Paramount Plus to watch Beavis and Butthead.
But that's part of the problem. Like, or you're like, you know what? I will get this app to watch an old show.
Yeah,
but I'm not watching any of your new. Like,
yeah.
The number of times, like, this is point blank to all my friends. There are two phrases that you can just presume my answer is no to. Phrase number one is, did you see that YouTube video on? And my answer is no, because I just don't sit and scroll YouTube as a person. And then the other is, did you see the new show on? It just doesn't matter. Like, especially coming through football season. And then after we get through football season and the tournament and the draft, then all of a sudden I feel like I'm overwhelmed with 30 shows that people have told me to watch, and I'm not going to watch any of them. So I just end up watching Law and Order and Impractical Jokers for the 8,000th time. Like, I'm a consistent human being.
I have that same thing. I don't want to say like I'm counterculture or anything, but I just feel like for certain things I'm either too far behind and I'm just not going to catch up, and I'm just not going to do it. Like, I've never seen Game of Thrones, never watched Breaking Bad. Like I'm very much just, I'm just not gonna. So, it's great. I'm sure it is a great show, but I'm not gonna watch Narcos. I'm just not gonna do it.
Every time somebody's like, you just got I tried to watch the first episode of Breaking Bad, and everybody's like, no, you just got to get through the first 4 or 5 episodes and then it gets amazing. And I'm like, so you want me to spend 5 hours of like just getting my shit handed to me, 5 hours of that, and then it gets amazing? Like, I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna sit through the 5 hours to do that.
I agree. And like Secession, not gonna watch it. There's, what was that other show that everybody was obsessed with? Maybe it was Secession that I'm thinking of. Is there another one right now that everybody loves that I'm missing? Severance, that's the one. I knew it was another S. Yeah, I'm not. And I haven't idea.
I'm behind on Severance. Like, Succession was the one that I caught. Like, I took 3 days, and I was like, I was sick, so I was like, I need to watch something, and I binged for 3 days. I just sat on the couch while I felt like death, and it was great. It was amazing. It was an electric show. I loved every second of it. That's a once in a 5-year period for me. So everybody else can have to line up, and in 5 years, I'll sit down for 3 days and watch a show. That's it.
And like, there's people like our mutual buddy Mike Golick Jr. like will be tweeting about everything popular. I'm like, dude, where do you get the time for this? Like, I don't know how you are so in tune with everything popular that everybody's watching. I just can't do it.
Yeah, Gojo, between his car snacks and his watching habits, like, I worry about him sometimes. Like, I just saw him in LA last week, and I'm like, I'm worried about you, man. Like, between the amount of Bachelor seasons that there are for him to comment on, and the amount of Reese's treats, like, I don't know how he's going to survive to his 40s.
I don't watch The Bachelor. I did watch Love is Blind. Like, Love is Blind, my girlfriend got me. I was like, all right, fine, I'll watch Love is Blind. And I was like, all right, this is actually pretty. I'm into this. This is fine. This is good.
A little of it. Like, my first radio show at ESPN was with Jordan Rodgers, and we met in Charlotte for the weekend as we were getting to know each other before we went on air the first time. And it was funny because we were introduced by a mutual friend at ESPN, and he immediately said, he's like, I'm sorry, I have no idea what band you're in. I don't listen to country music. And I was like, that's awesome, because I don't know the difference between The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. I'm not sure which one's which. Like, is it named after the person competing, or the people, like, or the person giving the rose or taking the rose? I still don't know. Like, Jordan's a good buddy, and I'm always like, he was on, and I just sort of like swallow it because I'm not sure which one was which.
I swear to God, every time Jordan Rodgers does a game, like, I close my eyes, and for some reason he sounds like Ashton Kutcher to me. Am I the only one who does that?
I'd never noticed that, but I can hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I was like, I know that's not Ashton Kutcher in the booth, but like, it sounds a little bit like him.
You got it. Mostly I just close my eyes because he's dashingly good looking.
Oh yeah.
Like, he's too beautiful to be talented.
Next week, we draft the hottest sports commentators in the business. Jordan Rodgers is going round 1.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like, if we're doing a snake draft on that, there is no doubt that Jordan Rodgers is a very high pick. Very high pick. And like, he'll play it off like it's cool, but like, at the same time, he knows it. Like, he's just going to look around and be single digit body fat, like, just dashingly good looking, former SEC quarterback,
I think Jordan Rodgers, Jesse Palmer, he's definitely up there as well. I think Kevin Burkhardt's a sneaky high pick.
I love that this is what we're This is amazing. And it shows a lot about the two of us as people and personalities that the conversation immediately went to our friends and our peers that are men, because I would never be disrespectful. I'm just not wired to be like, okay, which female's the hottest? Like that.
No. I think that there's a little bit of subjectation there when you do it like as a dude, be like talking about other women in the business. But I think dudes talking about other handsome dudes completely acceptable.
Oh yeah. Like there is no doubt about that. Like I feel like that is that Alan Hahn, by the way, big on the list. Like Han's a like chiseled jaw, like just man, it's great. Like so I once had a boss at ESPN say, "Why is it every time you're on air, I feel like you're Clark Kent and Alan Hahn's what you become when you're Superman?" And I'm like, thank you.
That's such a slap in the face, like almost compliment.
No. There's no almost to it. That's just a slap in the face. I took it though. I took it with great respect.
Oh, that's tremendous. All right, buddy. I'll get you on out of here. What have you got coming on the Yahoo side of things when it comes to content?
So check out Inside Coverage. We do 2 episodes a week, and that's me and Frank Schwab and Joey Epstein, Charles Robinson. So we do a combo of it's sort of the intent of that pod is to be the why and how. So instead of just giving you hot takes, it's a lot of information about, hey, here's why this is developing and here's how this came to be. I'm really proud of that one. And then also college during the season, during football season, college football power hour, during basketball season, college basketball power hour. So covering college sports for Yahoo too. So a lot of action out there. I'll be in San Antonio for the Final Four, and then we'll do a live stream for the NFL draft. So like everybody, we're out here doing the damn thing. But I think if you haven't checked out Yahoo in a minute, you should. There's a lot of great people there doing really good stuff.
Yahoo's built such a team of I've noticed it like with you, with Tice, with just everybody that they have over there in terms of the content that they do, insightful stuff. And I was incredibly happy when I saw that you landed there. And you've been doing great stuff ever since. So very happy for you, buddy, and everything that you're doing. So yeah, big props to you, giving you your flowers.
Thanks. I'm putting us on the hottest list too. I like if we're making the list, we have the opportunity to do that. So
I would love to be on the hottest list.
We're not on the upper like look, you walk into a bar, not everybody can afford top shelf. Like so if you back down off the top shelf.
If you're on a budget and you see me sitting there with a Jameson and ginger, be like, all right, what the hell? Why not?
We're on the Tito's shelf. Like, hey, we're not we're
not. You know what? Tito's is reliable. It gets you there.
Exactly. There we go. There we go. Perfect.
That'll be the tagline for this show. Tito's, it's reliable. All right. If you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe. Check out the written work for me at USA Today. Just did a long feature on the 49ers and why I think that whole thing is probably, we didn't know it at the time, but that thing's probably done. And you know what? Hot take, they should trade Brock Purdy. I dove into all of it in that piece. So go read that. Feature stuff coming for the NFL draft as well on different prospects. So go check that out on the USA Today family and networks. Follow other written work at Sporting News as well. And like I said, if you're listening, leave a review as a podcast. If you're watching, subscribe on YouTube. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll catch you soon. It's the Pump Fake.